State your name.
My name is Taylor Haley. I'm an attorney for St. Simon's Christian School. Mr. Duncan, I'm not sure exactly who you spoke to. I won't say that the school is happy. I won't say that the school is unhappy. This is what it is. We were trying to collaborate as neighbors. We were in a PD text. For those of you who have lived here for a long time, you know, this is one of those PD texts that was done when the old Sea Island Company owned all of the property involved. And that is not the reality anymore. St. Simon's Christian School owns part, you know, all the retail and the restaurant, CVS and all of that, down to Cilantro's, Dorothy's, that's all part of this PD text. So it's not the same reality that it was when it was initially done. When we came in January, the school was somewhat caught off guard by the project, but we came in good faith, and we did. We met with Sea Island Acquisition about this project after the hearing, and we had very fruitful conversations about ways that we can collaborate with the school's future plans, with their future plans, and I think that both parties have been working in good faith to be good neighbors. But at the same time, it's not that we love it. I mean, it has been clear cut. And so our happy little spot back there where we were tucked in, we have 193 students, pre-K through 8th grade, and they were very tucked in and secluded, and it was wonderful. And now that's not the reality, but the site plan was, they were seeking to do something that the PD text had already given them the right to do. And as someone who has represented zoning applicants for decades in my own practice, that there's a big difference in that. The school now feels that the rezoning is a clarification of something they did not already have the right to do. And I'm trying to be diplomatic because, like I said, the school wants to be a good neighbor here. But we don't love that there's 4 habitable floors looking down on our school. So I can't say we're happy, but we are trying to be a good neighbor and collaborate. But it makes it harder for them to buffer and for the security concerns because you have people at 45 feet high looking down on our playground and everywhere where we are and hanging out on balconies and doing what roommates do. I don't know, you know, one can. So I'm not here speaking in favor of it. I'm not here speaking against it, but the school is a very interested party and we are watching it closely and we want to make sure that this commission does its job. And we also don't want the commission or the project to get tied up in something that is not going to benefit anyone and have it just be a perpetual construction site because, you know, missteps were made at the approval level. So we're watching it closely. I don't know if that answers your question.
Thank you. I have
I just want to clarify, and I totally get where you're coming from in the school, but we're not, right now, they can build to 45 feet. And they can put a habitable floor at 45 feet and then have parking underneath. So we're not discussing raising the building with this variance, just to clarify. Yeah. So none of that would change.
No, I understand, but I also know that the way that they have options, and that's one of the blessings and the curse of kind of this PD text and the project is there are things they're seeking, but it's a conceptual thing and it could be something different. You know, it's not locked in. So that's part of why we're watching it closely.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Please state your name.
Good evening. I'm Theresa Beaton. I live on St. Simon's Island with my husband and our 3 children, 2 of whom are elementary students at St. Simon's Christian School. While I am an attorney, I'm not here in a representative capacity this evening. I have, however, spoken to quite an awful lot of parents at the school, and I can say that none of the families I've spoken with about anything about this project are excited about this project. I want to clarify that this project is not multifamily housing in the common use of the word. It is high-density, subsidized housing being put almost adjacent to our school and towering over our school. Our school has about 193 students and is growing. I have a few concerns I want to hit tonight. First, how this rezoning request may affect density. Second, why this rezoning request should be denied. And third, the parents' concerns about density and why this matters to us. First, regarding how this rezoning request affects density, which is my chief concern here tonight, the rezoning application at page 2 states that using 4 habitable floors will reduce site coverage to attain the same number of occupancy. And that if the applicant can have only 3 floors, it will increase the footprint and number of buildings necessary. Yet, if you flip to the end of the rezoning application packet, which is also the site plan that you approved in January, this is where the applicant already contemplated having 4 floors, as you've stated this evening, and it spans almost the entire footprint of this 2+ acres. So I don't know where those additional buildings would go, but I do believe that they would have to come back to this commission and receive approval for a new site plan to put additional buildings on this parcel. Second, this rezoning request should be denied because, as the previous speaker stated, the language of the Glynn County zoning ordinance controls here. It does not permit a habitable 4th floor on St. Simon's Island. This PD text includes a 45-foot limit and is completely silent on the number of floors. Why is it silent? The zoning ordinance was already carefully drafted and addressed that issue. You can choose to put other language in your PD text, and this particular PD text has been amended at least 3 times. Section 502 of the zoning ordinance addresses heights of building on St. Simon's Island and designates St. Simon's Island a, quote, area of scenic beauty and historic interest, and therefore does not allow the 4th floor to be habitable. This applies to everyone. Moreover, section 723.5 of our zoning ordinance provides, unless otherwise stated in the development text, the general provisions set forth in Article 6 shall govern unless relief is granted by the County Commission. What does Article 6 say? Well, in section 617, which is entitled Exceptions to Height Limits, it has absolutely nothing to do with a building like this. It's about chimneys, spires, belfries, the like. It doesn't apply here. This commission is not technically authorized to interpret a plain and unambiguous PD text. And here, this language could not be more plain and unambiguous. There's no need for quote-unquote clarification here. This question is already answered by the zoning ordinance. So what the applicant wants is an exception to be made for them, or as we also call it, a variance. But no compelling reason for a variance has been given. The only reason for this variance that's been offered by the applicant is that workforce housing is good. I do not disagree. But the thrust of this whole rezoning application packet is more, you should be thanking us for building our own workforce housing instead of asking you to subsidize it with your tax dollars. It doesn't matter that the site plan in January that was approved referred to the 4 stories. Section 619.7 of the zoning ordinance contemplates that when an application for site plan approval is filed in conjunction with an application for rezoning, this commission would first have to decide on whether to recommend denial or approval of the rezoning application and then transmit that for decision to the County Board of Commissioners. I question why that wasn't done here in January, but of course that was up to the applicant. I don't know if it was intentional or an oversight. Of course, what it would have meant is that this whole entire issue and this entire project would have first had to have gone to the County Commission in January rather than be approved in January here, which of course, as a practical matter, has meant that all of the trees on this property are already gone and construction is set to begin. Finally, and most importantly to me as a parent, are our concerns about density. We're concerned with the safety of our children. These are children, almost 200 children ages 4 through about 13. The applicant stated there are going to be up to 315 beds in this building. We're concerned about increased adult stranger presence.
1 minute.
Thank you. We're concerned about increased adult stranger presence. We're concerned about sex offenders. We're concerned about background checks and registration of sex offenders or other criminal offenders, both domestic and internationally. We're concerned about people changing their clothes with the blinds open as they look over our playground and our soccer field. We're concerned with people up 3 or 4 floors who can view our children all day long on the playground and soccer field. An additional habitable floor means it's more difficult to have a more meaningful buffer. if there are people residing on that floor who can look down. We're concerned about alcohol and drug use. We have all, at various times, smelled marijuana emanating around the guest cottages on Frederica Road. I don't intend to smell that when I'm dropping off and picking up my children from school.
Ma'am, wrap it up, please.
Thank you, I sure will, on my very last points. We're concerned about all of these things. We're concerned about pedestrian safety. We're concerned about parking, which is not enough. We're concerned about the DoorDash and Lyft and Uber drivers who be coming and parking at our school. And we are concerned about the residents there who really don't have access to usable and affordable shopping and dining. So we thank you. We hope you'll consider the precedent a decision like this would set. And we hope you'll consider neighbors, in particular with the children. And I thank you very much for your time.